We're good. Okay. Oh, and I need the thing to talk about. And then I can start. Sorry about this. I should have printed it out. I'm sorry. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Meeting of the Planning and Zoning Board on Monday, February 26, 2024. Diane, can you call the roll?
Chris Brown.
Here.
Judy.
Everyone, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Meeting of the Planning and Zoning Board on Monday, February 26, 2024. Diane, can you call the roll?
Chris Brown.
Here.
Judy Malika, she's absent. Gregory Snyder.
Here.
Morris Kostarfin, he's absent. Aaron Savage, absent. Allison Thomas.
Here.
Christina Morrison.
Here. So, approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda, or may I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Greg?
Second.
Second, Chris and then Greg. Diane, may I call the roll?
We're not doing the change.
No, so the agenda was updated, but just to clarify, the updated agenda added the election of officers. So that's the agenda that was moved for approval and seconded.
So the motion again was made by
Chris Brown and Greg Snyder seconded.
Chris Brown.
Yes.
Judy Malika, absent. Gregory Snyder.
Yes.
Morris Kostarfin is absent. Aaron Savage is absent. Allison Thomas.
Yes.
Christina Morrison.
Yes. Election of officers. Am I allowed to make a motion, or I'm not allowed to make a motion?
So
Please.
the way I typically handle the process is just open the board for nominations. Needs a second, and then if there's any additional nominations with the second. If there's no additional nominations, we still go through the roll call process. If during this process the filling of the vacant chair position results in a second vacancy, we'll just go directly into that second filling of that now vacant position as well.
Okay. Well, I'd like to make a motion to elect Allison Thomas as chair.
I'd like to make a motion to elect Christina Morrison as chair.
So one thing, so it's a nomination by Ms. Morrison. Do we have any seconds? Okay, and then we have a nomination by Board Member Brown for Ms. Morrison. Is there a second for that
Second.
nomination? Great. And then any additional nominations? And then Diane, that will be a roll call, please.
And this is a roll call for which one? Or
The nomination of Ms. Morrison to fill the vacant chair position.
okay. Chris Brown.
Yes.
Judy Malika is absent. Gregory Snyder.
Yes.
Morris Kostarfin absent. Aaron Savage absent. Allison Thomas.
Yes.
Christina Morrison.
Did you say yes? You can vote no.
Thank you, yes.
Chair, that now leaves the vice chair position vacant, so we would now at this time take nominations for that position.
I nominate Allison Thomas.
I'd like to second Allison Thomas.
I'll third that.
Any additional nominees? Great. Miss Miller?
Chris Brown,
Yes.
Judy Malika is absent, Gregory Snyder,
Yes.
Morris Christopherson is absent, Aaron Savage, absent, Allison Thomas,
Yes.
Christina Morrison.
Yes.
And so now that leaves our second vice chair position vacant. So if we have any nominees for second vice chair.
I nominate Mr. Schneider.
I'll second.
Are there any additional nominations? Ms. Miller?
Chris Brown,
Yes.
Judy Malika is absent, Gregory Snyder,
Yes.
Morris Christopherson is absent, Aaron Savage is absent, Allison Thomas,
Yes.
Christina Morrison.
Yes.
Congratulations, Mr. Schneider.
Gee, thanks.
You have all the power now.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So far down the list.
That would conclude the election officers.
Okay. Okay, so let's move on to the minutes. The minutes of January 22nd, 2024. May I have a motion to approve or to amend?
Motion to approve.
It was Greg?
Second.
Chris? Okay. Diane?
Chris Brown,
Yes.
Judy Malika is absent, Gregory Snyder,
Yes.
Morris Christopherson absent, Aaron Savage absent, Allison Thomas,
Yes.
Christina Morrison.
Yes. Okay, so now we go on to item 5, swearing in of the public before the public comments. Anybody that would wish to speak at tonight's meeting on any of the agenda items or any other matters, if you would please rise to be sworn in.
Please raise your right hand. By the authority vested in me, the notary of the state of Florida, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
And now we'd like to invite comments from the public on any item that is not on the agenda tonight. Does anybody have any comments to bring forward to this board?
I do.
Yes?
Hi, thank you for hearing me. My name is Susan Lubin. I live at 555 Southeast 6th Avenue. That's Federal Highway. And I came here about the parking problem, but not in town, okay? The parking problem, as I see it, is just getting worse, especially with the new construction. A couple years ago, after Whole Foods had opened, long after Whole Foods had opened, my husband and I went there just to pick something up. I don't usually shop there. And it was a Thursday night, 7 o'clock, not a place to park. And you know you can't park across the street because there's nothing else there. So he had to wait in the car while I ran in. Now, going down to Trader Joe's, everyone knows where that is, corner of Linton and Federal. That place was just built, you know, I don't know how many years ago, not that long ago. And when all those flagship stores were open and the restaurant was open there, no place to park. So people drove in and left, right? It didn't help the storekeepers and it didn't help the shoppers. And today, when we have all this online shopping you can do, I think we've run a big disservice to our, you know, town business owners. The one that bothers me also, and maybe more important to me personally, is right across the street from my building, they put in a surgical center. It's like a dermatology center, right on between 5th and 6th Avenue at 6th Street, called Flaydell now. And so they put in parking behind it. There's an alleyway behind it that they can park on. There's a street parking on that Flaydell, which is 6th Street really. There's parking, people park on 6th Avenue, they park on 5th Avenue, and there's always 4 or 5 cars parked in the empty lot across the street. So my concern is when that empty lot is built someday, where's all the extra parking gonna go? And so what I'm like to talk to someone about, you know, at length, would be how we can change our parking zoning laws so that we demand more parking spaces per building. Because all we're helping is a developer. He comes in, gets his money, leaves, and leaves a town with not enough spaces to make a living in their businesses. So who would I follow up with this issue?
Thank you.
Well,
Mr. Brennan?
This city has a parking management company.
I'm sorry?
I would suggest you go talk to them.
To the parking,
You know, if you leave your name on a piece of paper, I'll send you their, I happen to know them very well because I was involved in hiring them, not for Del Rey, but for another city, Pompano Beach. They're excellent. And I'll call them and tell them, you have to write your name on a piece of paper with your telephone number. I'll tell them that you're gonna call them. They're very nice people.
thank you. So,
Isn't there a parking management board?
Yeah, that they actually meet on the 27th of this week. So you
so
can
tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
correct. Yes, 5:30 p.m. Not in this building. They're actually in the Swinton Operation Complex, which is on Swinton, south of Atlantic. But if you want, it might be best is if you want to leave your contact information. Somebody from Development Services, most likely, but someone could probably reach out to you and let you know, what processes are available for amendment or how that might work.
Mr. Brown, should I leave it with you? Sure.
If I can, Amy Alvarez, Development Services, I have the first item. When I'm done with it, I can speak with you in the hallway. Development Services administers the land development regulations where all the parking requirements are, and so that might be the first step that we can talk to you about your concerns and just see if there's anything that
so
can be
I'll
done.
give you my name and number
Yes,
now. And
well, I'll if you can wait, hopefully not too long. I can come talk to you out in the hall.
Sure, thank
Okay.
you. And your name is?
Amy Alvarez.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Lubin. Are there any other comments from the floor about any non-agenda items? Okay, so then we can move on to presentations. And we have a first, there are no presentations, so we'll move on to quasi-judicial hearings. And Amy, you are up for Atlanta. Do you want me to read the rules first?
Please,
Okay.
Chair. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to read the quasi-judicial hearing rules, just so everybody understands the procedure. This hearing shall be conducted in accordance with the City of Delray Beach quasi-judicial rules. The applicant and the city shall be permitted to present their case. The public shall be allowed to speak for 3 minutes each, or a maximum of 6 minutes if the person represents an organization or group of people who are present but agree not to speak. The city commissioner, board member, staff, and the applicant may be allowed to cross-examine a witness. The city or the applicant will be allowed to offer rebuttal testimony. The decision to approve or deny an application or appeal may not legally be made upon personal views as to whether a project is a good project or not, nor may a decision be based on the number of citizens who support or oppose a particular project. The law requires that the decisions be made solely based on whether the project meets the requirements of law, the comprehensive plan, and the land development regulations. So now that we all know the rules, Amy, you want to take over?
Sure, thank you. Entering file 2024-082 into the record, and this is a request for the board to provide a recommendation to the City Commission on the vacation of Tract P from the Atlantic Grove Plat Number 2. And then just quickly before the applicant provides their presentation, I just want to, for the record, make a correction from my staff report on page 2. There's an indication that this request must be approved so that the Atlantic Grove Number 2 plat can be recorded. The plat is actually already recorded. This will be part of the discussions, but the plat is actually already recorded, so that was a misstatement in the report. It's so that they can obtain PCNs actually from the property appraisers, but we'll get into that during the presentation. So if the applicant would like to do the presentation, and then staff will follow.
Yes, Tim Hernandez for the applicant, Atlantic Grove Partners. So the history of this is, let me see if I can advance this. All right, so this was Atlantic Grove, the green area, originally. And this shows basically when we originally developed Atlantic Grove in 2004 through 2006. This is what the property ownership was. You see the orange was owned by Mount Olive. Then the other shade of orange was owned by the Townhome Association. and then the green portion was condo property. That's the two mixed-use buildings, basically. So there was an agreement to swap some land, basically giving the church the parking lot between Mount Olive. This is totally surrounded by all the Mount Olive property on the west side of 4th, and then we would get the townhome parcel as well as the an equivalent amount of land that would be adjacent to the condo association, also on the west side of Northwest 4th, north of the existing mixed-use building that's on that side of 4th. So then, finally, after the litigation was all resolved and settled, it all happened. So now this is what it looks like today in terms of the ownership. So the green is the condo, the blue portion is where we're building the townhomes right now, the last 14 townhomes which were approved, and the orange is on the right, the east side of 4th is the existing townhomes. So what happened, it's so weird, I never encountered this in all my years. Basically, we went through, after the site plan process, we went through the platting process and platted the site. And so track P is what's at issue here. And this is the plat. You can see track P, that's on one page, and then the rest of it with the townhomes on the other page. So that we recorded the plat, and then a few months later, the homes are under construction. The county calls us up and says, hey, there's a problem with the plat. What's the problem with the plat? You can't plat track P because it was added to the condominium already as part of the settlement order. We're like, okay. So I called our attorneys. This is where we are at the moment. Called our HOA attorney, association attorney, called our corporate attorney, called, the condos attorney, and we're like, what's going on here? They all believe that what we did was fine in accordance with the statutes, but the county property appraiser says that we have to delete track P from the condo because we can't plat a piece of property over a condo. That's what they say. So that's why we're here. We just have to remove track P. Nothing changes physically at all. It's exactly the way it was intended to be. But this is like, they will not, and the reason why we have to do this is because each one of those lots, those townhome lots, we're saying, okay, what does this have to do with the townhome lots? Which has nothing to do with the townhome lots. This is on the other side of the property, on the other side of the street, has nothing to do with it. They just won't assign property control numbers to all the fee simple townhomes. So you can imagine, we're almost done with them. It's going to be a humongous mess, okay? Because you're going to get one tax bill, and everybody's going to argue about like how come this guy put in a more expensive kitchen? Why am I paying the same taxes? I don't even want to go there. So anyway, bottom line is we have to. The property appraiser's office is making us take this action. They said all you have to do is partially vacate the plat and delete track P from it. This is esoteric and arcane as I have ever had anything, but this is any matter before any city, not just Delray Beach. So that's what it is. So we respectfully request that you approve our request to partially vacate. There's an aerial photo. That's it. I don't have anything else.
Chair, while they're loading the next presentation, can we do ex parte, please?
Okay, anybody have ex parte on this
I
project?
drove by and looked at the property.
Okay.
No.
Chris, Allison?
No.
No.
I know the project very well, and I know the developer very well. I tried to call him today, but couldn't get through.
Sorry, I was in a meeting.
Amy?
Okay, I'll try to be brief since the applicant, of course, covered everything in the request. Again, just an overview of the area. involved in the Atlantic Grove development, and then that's what you've got in the aerial on the right, and then on the left is Tract P, as he also showed. So this is all, again, provide a recommendation to the City Commission on the vacation of Tract P from Atlantic Grove Plat Number 2. So this is not a new plat. It actually will result in a resolution that would be recorded. So just, again, as part of the background, on the left, we've got the original Atlantic Grove plat that was recorded in 2002. The part in red, that is circled in red, was a parking area to support the development. And then in 2022 was when Tract P came in, and they kind of swapped. Tract P was also intended to provide parking to support the development. So we went over the condo docs, property appraisers issue, and so now the townhome parcels need to have PCNs assigned to them. So the LDRs do have a procedure for vacation of recorded plats. This is, in my 18 years with the city, this is my first time utilizing this process, so this has been really interesting. So the board needs to review it to provide the recommendation. So you're considering the appropriateness of the requested action and the impact on the public rights in any of the public uses, improvements, streets, etc. Typically a plat, as you know, is a bit more involved, but in this case, this specific parcel, there's been no changes to the parcel itself. That'll happen through a site plan amendment at a later date. But for now, since the parcel was platted, since Tract P was platted, there have been no changes to the site itself. Specifically, there are findings in the LDR, and that's section 248E5. And so part of the City Commission's findings and part of your recommendation is just finding that the abandonment of any affected public interest or public improvement that would have been created by the plat would not now essentially be impacted. So again, the abandonment is not affecting the public interest or improvements. So you have options for board action: recommend approval or recommend denial. The item is scheduled for next Tuesday's City Commission meeting, and that's resolution number 69-24, and that meeting is on March 5th. So if you have any questions.
Are there any comments from the public on this item? Seeing none, we'll move on. Do you have any questions for Jen?
No.
Okay. Do you have any?
Well, and just rebuttal or cross.
No.
You knew what I meant.
I know.
Yeah.
Just to make the record clear.
We did not speak.
Thank you.
Okay, to the board. Greg?
No.
Chris?
No.
Allison?
No.
Oh my goodness. Well, I just have stupid questions. There's nothing built on this place, right? Okay, and ownership will stay with the condo?
Yeah.
This is just...
Yeah, nothing. Yes, this is just satisfying the property appraiser. That's
oh,
it.
Please. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll accept a motion.
I recommend approval for the recommendation to the City Council, the vacation of Tract P from Atlantic Grove Plat Number 2, finding that the request meets criteria set forth in the land development regulations.
Second.
That was Allison and Chris or Greg?
Chris.
Chris. Okay. Any
Chris.
further discussion? Fine. Diane?
Chris Brown,
Yes.
Judy Malika is absent, Gregory Snyder,
Yes.
Morris Christopherson is absent, Aaron Savage is absent, Allison Thomas,
Yes.
Christina Morrison.
Yes. Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it, guys.
I don't know what we did, but you know, whatever. Oh, jeez. Okay, on to item B, Harbor's Edge. Any ex parte communications on this? Greg?
Yeah, I went down and looked at the site.
Chris?
No.
Allison? No. Okay, and I know the site very well. So we'll move on to Jennifer.
Hello, good. Good evening. I'm Jennifer Planner with Development Services. I'd like to put into record file number 2023-226. This is Harbor's Edge, located at 401 East Linton Boulevard, and the applicant is here.
Good evening, board members. Joan Machado, Senior Project Manager with WGI, here representing on behalf of the applicant. So it's just introduction for the team, WGI, Lansbo GOSC architects, and JFO as the traffic engineers. Before you tonight is a level 3 site plan approval to allow the development of an additional 3-story, 40-bed assisted living memory care building on the property identified as Harbor's Edge. The addition of a new covered drop-off structure and a new pedestrian pathway along the intercoastal waterway. Today there are no waivers or variations requested as the site is compliant with the code. Just for a general location, the site is located on the north side of Linton, just on the northwest of the intercoastal waterway. Surrounding land uses, we have single family across the water to the east. We have the Condominiums Association to the north. Harbors Plaza Shopping Center on the west, and a combination of Del Rey Shopping Center and single families to the south. The affected area is highlighted on the screen on the irregular shape on the southwest corner of the screen, highlighted in red. And on to the right, you can see pictures of what's existing on that area to date. The request comes from adding again a 3-story building to add 40 beds broken down in 24 assisted living beds and 16 memory care beds. This is just a little easier for reference. The existing configuration of the site remains the same. We are taking the footprint of an existing building and some surface parking and replacing that, as you can see on the south. The portico share happens on the center of the site, right where that rotunda is. And the pedestrian pathway is just to connect the back side of the administration building to a new created or recently approved sports courts on the complete southeast corner of the site. All of it is intended to serve the residents of the community as it stands today. This is a more zoomed in version of the affected area. Again, it's the 3-story building. We have the proposed building set at 25 feet setback from the property line to the first and second floor, and then it's a tiered effect to the third floor, as that requires an additional 5 feet of setback to a total of 30 feet. There's going to be a small memory care garden for the residents of the memory care component on the building, located on the south facade. The existing sign on the entrance of the property will remain the same. There is pedestrian connectivity to the existing sidewalk system on the campus, and there is the revised parking layout, as you can see on the screen. This is a render view of what the proposed building will look like upon completion. This is looking at the building from the northeast, from inside the property. And here you have the east elevation, north elevation, and the southeast elevation, which will be what will be visible from Linton Boulevard. Obviously, there will be a landscape buffer and screening. This is just to allow you to see the project. The portico share, again, that happens in the rotunda. It is centrally located onto the site, and it's just the addition of a fixture detached for building. It is in tensile fabric, just to allow for those days where we have inclement weather, safe place for residents to come off. The next slide just shows compliance with the standards set forth with land use, concurrency, consistency, compliance with the LDRs, landscape and architectural elevations. The next slide just shows the land use map completely surrounded us. We are a little bit of a pocket of a residential multifamily, medium density, and that is found to be compliant. We're being again compliant and reviewed by potable water, sewer, drainage, transportation, parks and open space, solid waste, and schools. Again, all found to be satisfactory on the analysis. with a comprehensive plan as well as the standard regulations. Here we have the overall max height of the building, where we are compliant. We're right at 42 feet at the top of the parapet, meeting the setbacks to the first and second floor, third floor additionally. The density, the site has been established as a legal nonconformity when it comes to density. That is very well explained by the work that staff did on their staff report. Lot coverage, we're under over open space. We exceed the number of required parking spaces, and we are adding 4 additional bike rack spaces as part of the proposed development. So this is just summarizing that we've been found in compliance with all the LDR's performance standards. This is just a zoomed in version of the landscape plan, so you can start to visualize what that area will look like upon completion. And then you have the proposed architectural elevations for the overall building. Here I just have the technical notes, and I just want to read off something for the record. We had a discussion and meeting with staff prior to tonight's meeting, and just want to state for the record and just clarify for condition 2A, where we are asked to the ingress egress easement recorded in OR book in page 3070, page 775, and the utility easement found in OR book in page 3623, page 428, must be abandoned and recorded by Palm Beach County Clerk Court. Just want to state that the language to read should be must be abandoned and or revised with a new easement, as this is impacting our adjacent property owner to the west. We're just modifying the cross access to the plaza to the west will still remain, and then we're just abandoning the portion of easement that no longer serves anyone or anything in the property, as that was an old easement that existed prior to the plat, but we do have to go through the process to do so. So we're just asking for the added language to be abandoned and or replaced with a new easement. That concludes my presentation. I'm here for any questions that the board may have.
Chair, while staff are pulling up their presentation, I want to just briefly comment on what we refer to as the technical notes in the staff report.
Okay.
Those are not items or conditions that are part of your review or approval. They're typically just added to give a complete picture of what may be needed in the future, both for the applicant and the city. So the applicant and the city will discuss, those easements and how they need to be addressed. It's not part of your review for today.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, Jennifer Buse again. This is file number 2023-226, and it is for Harbor's Edge. It is located at 401 East Linton Boulevard, and the land use is medium density, and the zoning is medium density residential. The existing use is 44 assisted living units and 266 independent living units. And they are proposing almost a 40,000 square foot, 40-bed assisted living memory care unit and minor modifications on the property. Just a little bit of history. This was originally approved in 1983 through a conditional use and a Class 5. The campus includes the 54 health beds, the 266 dwelling units, garage and surface parking, administrative center, and multiple amenities. When this went through in 1983, this was zoned RM15, which allowed for 306 dwelling units. Only 266 units were built. And in 1990, when they did the citywide rezoning, they changed RM15 to RM6 to 12 units per acre. So this has been made an existing legal nonconformity. So the proposal is for the first floor with 16 assisted living beds, which include a salon, activity room, kitchen, and dining hall on the floor. And the second floor is 12 assisted living beds that also include a lounge and dining area. And the third floor is 12 beds and amenities, which is the fitness center, activity room. And the roof will house the mechanical equipment, which also includes the required generator. The other improvements that we, touched upon just a bit are the minor parking improvements, the sports court and new pedestrian pathway, landscape enhancements, the cover drop-off structure over the main building, and a new dumpster enclosure at the proposed site. This is under the required findings with the land use map. This is a preferred zoning district, and the assisted living facility is a principal use in the RM zoning district. So the concurrency has been met with water and sewer, schools and parks is not applicable, and the traffic performance standards. Under the consistency, there were quite a few policies. In your report, there's the housing policies, there is the open space and recreational element, and there is also the coastal management element. The proposed assisted living facility memory care room, they don't qualify as dwelling units, neither do the existing 44 beds that are on the campus to date. Currently, this is located in a flood zone at AE6. The updated flood maps on the property will affect it and make it an AE7 flood zone. The proposed building is at the AE7 requirement under Florida Building Code, so they are going up the extra foot now to make sure that it's covered when it goes to building permit. The compliance with the LDRs are the applicable regulations are the principal use within RM zoning district. Setbacks comply, only the front setback is affected for this building. The height complies, lighting, off-street parking, bicycle parking, and the lot coverage. So here is the height, which is measured from the vertical distance from the baseline elevation to the highest finished roof. The maximum allowed in the zoning district is 45 feet. Proposed is 42 feet to the highest roof line. And then the maximum allowed to cover mechanical screening is 10 feet above the roof line. Here is the compliance with landscaping. It was deemed compliant with landscaping. However, there is an in lieu fee of $147,000 that must be paid into the tree trust fund prior to the issuance of a building permit. And here are the specifications for 5 subsections for the architectural elevations and aesthetics. It's minimum requirements, building and structure requirements, exterior space, parking lots, and vehicular area criteria to board action. A, B, and E are relevant to this request. So these are just a picture of what is there today and what is proposed to show you that the architecture is consistent with what is existing on site. The minimum requirements show proper design concepts and honest design construction, and it is appropriate to the surroundings. That needs to be finding needs to be found. And then this is the building and structure requirements. Again, since this is part of a group or a complex, they should have a unity of character together, be harmonious. Architectural features such as stair towers and restroom facilities and elevator overruns shall be incorporated into the overall design of the building, and flat roofs shall be screened. So again, just side by side, you see that the original development has some distinct features of modernism movement. They use clean lines. It's a minimal design. The color palette is light, and you see the new building that is being proposed, and it keeps in with the modernism style with clean lines as well, and the color palette is to remain the same. These are just the architectural elevations, and the parapet is concealing all of the mechanical screening on the flat roof. And the criteria for board action, it should be in good taste, good design, and generally contributes to the image of the city. The proposed structure will not materially depreciate in appearance and value, and it has to be in harmony with the general area with comprehensive plan. And this is just the covered awning. And again, here are the technical notes. I just kind of wanted to point out the reason for the abandonment of the ingress egress is you can't have a building on top of an easement. So it does have to be abandoned in order for the proposed building. And LEED also, certification for LEED or equivalent, silver or equivalent, also needs to be done. This was adopted through ordinance number 3022. Anything over 30,000? 30,000, I believe, square feet requires LEED certification. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay. Any rebuttal?
Public comment first, Chair.
Oh, any public comment? Thank you. Any public comment on this presentation? Seeing none? Any rebuttal? Any
None.
questions of the applicant? No? Okay. So we'll move on to board. Greg?
Yeah, I just have a couple comments. How does the addition of this affect the evacuation, hurricane evacuation?
So
I mean, obviously it adds to your problem to some extent.
correct. There's 40 additional beds that are being created as part of the proposed building. There is already a system or a plan in place with the Palm Beach County Fire Rescue and the city, and that plan will be modified to take that into effect. So that has been addressed and will be provided upon completion of the project. That plan will be revised.
Okay.
But it was discussed during the approval that got us here today.
Okay. And just a couple of comments that I have. $147,000 is nice, but I hate to see 32 trees go away. However, and I want to compliment you on the architecture. It really looks like a nice building. And that's it. I think it's good.
Thank you.
Chris?
I have no comment. I'm a big supporter of Harbor's Edge.
Thank you.
Thank you.
They're a big
Allison?
part of they're a big part of the city. So
They are.
Can we discuss a little bit more about the traffic right there? Are they coming out on Linton? Is that where the traffic's going to add to?
So the ingress and egress to the site does
Right.
not change. It remains exactly the same. It was a traffic statement provided for the application where there's an additional 7 trips being generated at peak hour in the morning and 10 additional trips generated in the afternoon hours, peak hours. The changes are de minimis and do not require any changes to the site or really don't impact it. Most of that is because what is being proposed is to add on to the services that are being provided at Harbor's Edge is the missing link. Harbor's Edge has independent living and it has skilled nursing, but it lacks the memory care and the assisted living component. So the whole idea is for the residents to age in place rather than be transferred to communities elsewhere. So the added trips is just the additional staff that may need to come in for such proposed. The question about the easement is it's a very old easement that existed for ingress and egress. It encompassed a much larger area than it needed to be, and there is already buildings set forth on that easement. We're not asking how we got here. We're just trying to comply with the system. And as the previous application, there's stuff with the plats. We're all trying to clean all that record up. And then again, that's why we're working with staff and the neighbors to the west too, because they're right at the very entrance. I don't know, Jen, if you have a zoomed in version. Right at the very entrance, there is cross access to the commercial plaza to the west, which we know is imperative and important. The city was part of it, and as well as the plaza, and that will remain. We're not asking to modify nor change how that system works. We're just amending the 150 by 100 foot easement down to the cross access area. You have to guys go into a slideshow if you wanted to see that. You can see it. I don't know if this has a pointer. Whoops.
That's better.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
better.
it's identified by that dash line up in the front where it says 100-foot ingress easement, or book on page 30 at the bottom left of the page. The building that exists already on site is encroaching onto that easement, and there is the other irregular dash line that comes in at an angle from left to right. That was also an old ingress easement that no longer serves the property, as you can see. So we're just asking for the amendment and abandonment of said easements to give place to the new proposed building.
Can you go to the next slide, too, please?
Of course.
The colored one.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think what you guys do is exceptional and amazing, and I understand why you would need it. I'm just a little concerned about the traffic right there, especially with how busy that area is. But I love what you're doing.
Yep. No, the gatehouse is set back far enough to allow for enough stacking in
Okay,
and
good.
out of the site.
Okay.
And again, that none of that is changing.
Okay,
That
great.
that all remains the same.
Thank you. That's all for me.
Okay, just a few questions. Please leave that slide up. So this is a memory care facility. So where is the drop-off and pickup location for the vehicles servicing this building?
So the main entrance to the building will be on the far east.
Where it says pedestrian connection?
So right about here. That would have a little bit of a covered portico. You can see it here. So separate from the building, it's got to have a little canopy over the sidewalk as you enter onto that building.
So to get to that entrance, you come in the main entrance, and before going up the driveway to the main building, you would make a right. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and there's going to be adequate parking there for visitors?
Yes. So there will be these parking spaces that will be here, and we are amending. If you continue far the path here, these used to be all parallel spaces. There were about 6 or 7 spaces that were parallel along that drive out. We've now turned it into a 90-degree parking where we can get more parking. The same 6 spaces that were there plus a few more. So we actually are netting. We're not losing parking spaces from what was proposed originally there.
Okay, and this is a memory care facility, so tell me about the wall that's going to be erected along Linton. How high is the wall?
So the existing wall that exists on site is not going to get modified.
It's the wall that's there now?
Yes, that we're not looking to change that. That's an existing feature. It's on the property line. We're not modifying that as part of this request or application. We are enhancing the landscape on the interior part of the wall, but not the wall itself.
Okay.
There will be, if I may.
Of course.
So,
Hi.
Just please state your name and address for the record.
Todd Anthony, Lance Bozier Architects. So to answer your question, that wall right now is pretty low. It's like at 5 feet, 4
Yeah.
feet in some areas. So we're going to have a picket inside of that wall, which will be screened by landscaping, because we want to have something that's not, somebody can't elope over. So a metal picket fence screened with landscaping on the interior of the property.
Maybe 8 feet or what?
I don't
6
think it needs to be
feet?
that high. Yeah, 8 feet, then you're going to see it clear over that perimeter wall. And it's tougher to screen an 8-foot wall with landscaping than it would be 6 feet. But if it's non-scalable,
Non-scalable,
Yeah, non-scalable, yeah.
Okay, so, and around that memory garden, Will that be a gated area or a fenced-in area? so that-
Correct. The whole garden is fenced in for the memory care residents.
It's not showing there, so you're going to fence that in.
It is not on that rendering. It is.
Maybe on the landscape plan.
It is on the landscape plan. So that area. Sorry,
It's on white on white.
I have to.
Yeah.
So there's a clear barrier right here with landscape, and again that area will be fenced. That is the meandering path, and there will be more fence or gates on the far west end.
Yeah, you close the loop over at that top left corner in the northwest
It is,
corner.
yeah, it is a memory care residence, so that area does have to be secure and maintained.
That's
yes.
why I'm
Yeah,
asking,
yeah,
because
yeah.
I don't see it on the plan.
At
It
the
will
scale,
be.
but it will be, yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. If there's no other questions, I'll accept a motion.
I move approval of the level 3 2023-226 site plan and landscape plan and architecture elevation for construction of a 3-story assisted living and memory care facility at Harbor's Edge located at 401 East Linton Boulevard by finding that the request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and meets criteria set forth in the land development regulations.
Second.
Second, Mr.
I will, yeah.
Go ahead.
Second. I don't care, somebody has to.
Diane, call the roll.
Chris Brown,
Yes.
Judy Malika is absent, Greg Snyder,
Yes.
Morris Christopherson absent, Aaron Savage is absent, Allison Thomas,
Yes.
Christina Morrison.
Yes.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Excuse me, you're going to get a reputation for breaking records.
I know. Wait a minute, we got one more.
That's why we don't do that.
One more quick one. Thank you to Life Space for bringing their business here. Thank you.
No wonder this.
Okay,
Check for.
now on to Rebecca. Your turn.
Good evening, Rebecca Dastry for the record. We're entering the record file number 2024-077.
Do we have to talk about ex parte? Because we talked about this item before, right?
No, this is legislative item, so there's no need for ex parte
Okay,
communication.
because we talked about this before.
I believe so.
Yes.
So the request is to amend the land development regulations. This is a city-initiated amendment to add general commercial zoning as an allowed location for temporary parking lots limited to the off-site storage of automotive dealer inventory. And the map on this slide shows you all of the GC zoned properties within the city. And I'll tell you, I was actually very surprised that we have such a small amount of GC zoned land, but we do. So this is where the storage would be limited to. So this got its start with a temporary use permit that was issued for 541 to 571 West Linton. It was a temporary use permit for the storage of dealer inventory, and there was a waiver associated with that for to the location limitations. Excuse me. That permit expired, and they didn't request an extension. So when then they came back in, the applicant to try to have the same parking lot, the determination by the director was that they couldn't proceed for a number of reasons, because and one of the most important being that you can't do use waivers. So I'm not sure how that happened before, but you cannot. So it couldn't be interpreted that a commercial parking lot, which is what the applicant was requesting, is a temporary parking lot. So when the applicant appealed this to City Commission, the Commission directed staff to do an amendment to allow dealer inventory temporary parking lots in certain zoning districts. So again, it's a very basic update, which the full draft of the ordinance is before you. It's to allow the temporary storage of automotive dealership vehicle inventory only within the general commercial zoning district. we currently have on the books a process that brings it to PMAB, the Parking Management Advisory Board, but we thought it was more appropriate to do technical administrative review by all the different departments because it's more of a site plan issue as to whether it would be appropriate than necessarily related to the management of parking. And so it is renewable annually for a maximum of 3 years, but we established an administrative review process so that if they're not being a good neighbor, then they would not be recommended to the commission for renewal. Our comprehensive plan always supports a business-ready environment and supporting the legacy industries like the automotive industry. So this is a way to support them. They've communicated that they are being asked to store inventory in excess of what they can provide on site. So this is in response to that. It's going to the Parking Management Advisory Board tomorrow night, and then City Commission, we're anticipating this going in March and April of 2024. So if you have any questions, I will be glad to answer them.
Greg?
Yeah, obviously, not something that thrills me, but it's directed by the commission. But I looked at that parking lot, and what I think is there needs to be something in the wording that says it cannot be on an arterial street.
I agree. Gotta be set back.
On an arterial street. Like the one we have is behind Five Guys in the
That is correct.
eyeglass place up there on 4th Avenue, not on Linton. If it were right on Linton, it would be disgusting. And I don't know exactly how to word that, whether you say on an arterial street or visible from an arterial street, but I think it's important.
Could you bring up the drawing where you showed the pink highlighted remaining GC? Because Greg brought up a great point.
Mm-hmm.
Greg, look at the upper right-hand corner. That's Federal Highway, and it's all in pink.
That's the AC part, right?
No.
That's actually a general commercial.
Oh, those are the GC parts.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And they're all along an arterial, the main
Yeah.
arterial.
Well, that's what I don't have a problem with the lot that's in use as a temporary lot, because I think it's appropriately placed, but I don't think it ought to be on Federal Highway. If it's behind, I don't know what's up there, personally. I can't look at that and tell you what's on the exactly fronting Federal Highway. If the lot is behind the buildings that front, then that's fine. If it's actually fronts onto the arterial street, I think it's not Delray.
I think there's 7 vacant parcels of land along Federal Highway north of George Bush.
Okay.
That this could be construed to be permitted.
Well, that's.
I agree with you.
I mean,
think it's the highest and
I
best
just
use.
think I think it's a way to control it without denying it.
This is certainly a challenging tightrope to walk, as you're pointing out, because I think as overall the city is not necessarily in support of overall giving free rein to the use, but we don't want it to be so narrow that it's spot zoning or to the benefit of a particular person. But your comments are certainly noted and appreciated, and we can communicate that.
Okay. Are we going to make a motion on this?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I would like to include that.
And you can, if there's a consensus of the board to add a condition such as that, you can do a motion to recommend as amended and add that as a condition you thought was appropriate as part of the approval of this ordinance.
One way,
Into the microphone.
you want to
Being
make an
recorded.
amendment?
Chris.
Well, let's discuss first.
Yeah, I want to just.
Chris,
your
could you
comment
move
about
closer to your
arterial.
microphone?
I'm involved.
Chris, could you move closer to your microphone? Diane has to record all this.
Yes, Madam Chairman. I do a lot of parking consulting, particularly for cities that are in intense redevelopment. West Palm is one, and Pompano Beach is in pretty big redevelopment. So I'm going to use Pompano Beach. We use temporary parking in Pompano Beach. I do almost all of their leases of
Is this
temporary
mic on?
parking. If we didn't have temporary parking, we couldn't continue doing redevelopment because there's so much demand for parking for construction workers. There's demand for parking for employees, and the parking standards in Pompano are not real strict. So we have to resort to temporary parking. Now in Pompano, we can only go 5 years. We have annuals, but we go 5 years. So and I do them on arterials. So I'm going to just discuss with my compatriot, Mr. Snyder. I wouldn't rule out arterials. I would upgrade the landscaping and buffering and so forth, if that's what you're worried about, on arterials.
Well, I understand what you're saying, and I think the discussion today is about overstock storage for auto dealers.
I have a comment there.
That's what we're discussing. We're not talking about all temporary parking.
Okay. Well,
And I only intend to restrict it to that.
yeah, I'd like to talk about the automobile dealers. I think it's a mistake to only.
Mr. Brown, I think Miss Miller's still having trouble picking you up. If those are mobile, so if you want to try moving it closer.
Move it closer.
Yeah.
Maybe. Well, thank you, Allison. Thank you. So I have a comment about only restricting temporary parking to automobile dealers. So, Rebecca, I have a suggestion. On number 2 of your ordinance, I would add a sentence at the end of temporary parking lot spaces shall be, I'll add a sentence, the city may use temporary parking to provide public parking. It's very important in a city with redevelopment. And the people that suffer are employees and sometimes customers. I also recommend a sentence at the end of paragraph 3 that you're restricting it to dealerships, but I also would like, Greg, for you to consider except for the city use for public parking. You get it? You're restricting it to, is limited to off-site storage for automobile dealership vehicle inventory.
General, yeah, okay.
I really, I can tell you, automobile dealership vehicle inventory is a visual nightmare. You know that. It is. It's a visual nightmare. I would never put that ordinance in any of my other cities that I work for. But I'm gonna let it, I mean, if whoever wrote it, did you write that?
We did this at the direction of the commission to accommodate, to look for solutions.
Okay.
But that is, to your point though, if you all have issues, which Mr. Snyder has communicated as well, with the visual impact, we currently just subject it to the existing landscape standards. But if you wanted to see some landscaping enhancements that you felt like would maybe make it a little more acceptable, that's well within your purview to suggest that.
Yeah, I would definitely up the standards, landscaping standards for large dealership parking lots.
Aren't there parts of the city that already authorize temporary parking lots? I mean, we're talking about general commercial.
Yeah, so currently it's restricted to the portion of CBD and CF district bounded by Swinton Avenue on the west and the Intracoastal on the east, Northeast 2nd Street to the north and southeast, 2nd Street to the south, and then in a different portion of the CBD that's outlined, well, actually 3 different areas of the CBD, and then non-residential zoning districts between Swinton on the east, I-95 to the west, Northwest First. So this is just adding a different area.
Yeah, so there's already accommodation in the city for temporary parking lots, just not in general commercial zoning.
Yeah.
And we have some different regulations about commercial staging, like to your point about...
No, I think it's great that you're adding the GC to it.
Okay.
Okay, those are my comments.
Thank you.
I echo with Greg. I agree that it shouldn't be on an arterial street, And I mean, at most, we would have to add to the landscaping to improve it so that we don't see the cars.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I'm with you. Yes,
Awesome.
sorry, thank you.
Sorry, Rebecca, but I totally agree. When we build, and the auto dealerships, because of what's required of them by the manufacturers, they have to update their facilities almost constantly. Right now, we have Volvo, Volkswagen under construction, Mazda's going under construction. It's like, every year there's something. So we do need supplemental parking for the auto dealers during these construction times. But what was awarded to them earlier this year was perfect because it's not along a street. It's tucked back off of a main street. You don't see it. It's next to the new fire station where there will be lots of parking of city vehicles, so it kind of blends in back there. Mm-hmm. But to have it on Federal Highway right now already has a lot of off-car dealerships that aren't landscaped like we require our main dealerships. When Greco got approved for Ford and Chevy, their landscape was a couple $1 million. I mean, huge trees had to be brought in, and it's totally beautified. And why we wouldn't insist on that for anything along an artery that has cars, I don't understand. Chris doesn't agree with me because you think it's too onerous?
No, I'm letting the automobile dealers get their way. It's just they have to landscape.
Yes,
They're
that's what I'm saying.
Thank you, Allison. They're sort of a visual
We'll give
language.
it value.
And then they'll object. But listen, they're a big business, and they ought to care about trees.
And we're a beautiful city, and we care about trees.
Yeah,
and we
we
care
do.
about landscaping and how things look from a street. So I'm sorry to put more work on you, Rebecca, but I think
It's
that
okay.
it has to be there has to be a landscape portion of this ordinance, mandatory, that if it's on an arterial street, it has to be set back. You can't see it from the street. Greg?
Really, what I think we want is not visible from an arterial street due to either location or landscaping,
Or both.
or both.
It's just not fair.
It's okay.
Okay, so we'll take this back and have our senior landscape planner look at some suggestions, and we can retool it based on your recommendations here before we bring it to commission.
You want my notes on my two changes?
Sure.
He
I'll
did all
grab
the
it from you
homework.
after. Thank you.
It's just that
Typical city planner.
I
So
think
I want to,
the city's a very useful parking provider, and they can help ease things, as that woman got to the microphone tonight as an example. They can provide temporary parking.
Sure. Okay. Well,
It's
thank
very
you.
important, temporary parking,
No.
because permanent parking is incredibly expensive. It's just unbelievable how expensive it is.
Well, next month, hopefully, you'll be seeing the amendment we're
thank you.
working on about in lieu parking. So you
Okay,
can come ready to talk parking some more.
all right.
so we
We do,
Ready
yes, we do need a motion since this item has been
now,
called.
but before I make the motion, I want to ask you
Yep.
how to word this. As amended, and then should I say in accordance with,
Well, Ms. Dossery has actually indicated that she would come back with an amended ordinance.
okay,
So tonight would not be a recommendation because she'll bring that new ordinance back. So to continue with direction or motion to postpone, if one of those items are on that sheet, it's usually the last
No.
one.
well,
Yes.
continue
so
with direction.
Motion to continue with direction. And this, Rebecca, correct, does not require any heightened notice, so it doesn't need
No.
to be a date certain.
Okay,
Correct. So just that simple of a motion.
so I move that ordinance number 12-24 be continued with direction.
I second.
Diane, call the roll.
Chris Brown,
Yes,
Judy Malika is absent, Gregory Snyder,
Yes,
Morris Christopherson absent, Aaron Savage absent, Allison Thomas,
Yes.
Christina Morrison.
Yes. You're such a homogeneous group tonight. Wow.
I was hoping you'd get us out of here by 5.
6:10. Beat that. Beat that.
on these things.
Are we allowed to adjourn, or no? How about staff?
Just
Sorry.
really quickly, I accidentally, okay. Our next board meeting is March 18th, and the one after that is April 15th. The infill housing compatibility initiative, LDR, that you all reviewed last month is going to be coming to commission on February 20th and March 5th.
So it already had the first hearing?
Yes, I apologize. I'm completely mixed up about what day it is. But yes, it went for first reading on the 20th. No comment or discussion then, and any of the presentations will be taking place on the 5th.
March 5th.
And the tree fund ordinance as well, with some of the changes you all requested about maintenance and restricting it to a percentage have been incorporated in that, no more than 10% for maintenance. And that's it from me.
Okay. Mr. Attorney,
No comments, Chair.
any comments from the board? Motion to adjourn?
Chair, with the authority, you are allowed to just adjourn us.
We are adjourned.
All righty.
Thank you.
Slam that baby.
Beat that.